Good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to welcome you to our 2020 winter party. I'm speaking to you thanks to the magic of virtual technology from the Coricancha temple in the Cusco, in the Inca capital of Cusco. But we'll be hearing about a different part of Peru tonight. More about that in a second. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your continued support for SAR, which has meant so much to us over the past year. Every year, we gather and enjoy this special winter party where we can show our appreciation for members of our board of directors, the Founders Society, the President's Circle, and the Legacy Circle. I want to give heartfelt thanks to Ken Stillwell. I see Ken there as a tiny thumbnail. He's chair of our President's Circle, who has generously supported or sponsored tonight's event. I'd like to thank Miriam Kolar and José Cruzado for creating the immersive experience that we'll all share in a few minutes. Sabor Peruano for a cooking demonstration that you'll hear more about shortly. Maria Reynolds for the music, which you've already heard. The Peruvian Connection for donating door prizes and a 15% discount in their Santa Fe store. To Jonathan Lowe as our videographer. And I want to thank our crack development and membership team, Laura Sullivan, Lindsay Archuleta, and Amy Schiffer for putting this together. I take no responsibility whatsoever. That was all their hard work. It's through your generosity and that of others that we're able to pivot to online programming during the pandemic period. Since March, our online events have reached over 3,000 participants from 28 states and 12 countries. During this fall, we've produced an ambitious and I must say exhausting schedule of online classes, salons, scholar colloquia, Zoom discussions, and artist talks that will continue through the coming year. You can find a full listing of these events on our website, on the SAR Connect's landing page. And most of these programs, if you happen to miss them, are available on our YouTube channel. We're still working through the kinks delivery of our online programs, but we plan to continue to provide programming of the highest quality. We're working hard to improve our technology. To some extent, we're always subject to the whims of the internet itself, but we're getting better and we're having a blast. That said, we're looking forward to the time when we can see you in person again. This year's theme will take us on a virtual journey to the Andean Highlands of Peru. You've already heard Andean flute music by Maria Reynolds, and in a minute, we'll be treated to a special experience presented by SAR's 2016-2017 Weatherhead Fellow and cultural acoustician Miriam Kolar and her husband, Peruvian multimedia artist José Cruzado. Together, they've created a dynamic multimedia tour that draws on over a decade of innovative sonic fieldwork at the 3,000-year-old Andean ceremonial site and World Heritage Center of Chavín de Huántar in Peru. After their presentation, we'll get a cooking demonstration by Peruvian sisters Adriana Brawley and Susana Hamilton, owners of Sabor Peruano. Following the presentations, we'll have a chance for discussion and questions with all the presenters. I should say at this point, by the way, that your experience might be improved if you choose the speaker view in Zoom instead of the whatever 50 or 60 thumbnails. You'll get a larger image of whoever is speaking. That's up in the selection panel up near the top. And since we've got a crowd tonight, if you have questions, it's probably best to put them in the chat box, which you may have to click open on your app, but then we'll try and referee and direct the questions to the appropriate person as we move forward. I hope you'll stay to the end of the event when we'll have a drawing of door prizes, 2 items donated by the Peruvian Connection and 2 items donated by Sabor Peruano. For those who wish to socialize after the event, since everybody's muted, which I'm sure you're not accustomed to, we'll provide Zoom breakout rooms if you want to stay when we're done. This will take place roughly from 6:30 to 7 as a kind of after party. So again, welcome to this event. This is the first time for us. It should be an exciting experiment. Let's start with the presentations.
Chavín Ecologies, Elemental Resoundings. Good evening. Thank you for your support of the School for Advanced Research and the creative scholarship it enables, such as my 2016 Weatherhead Resident Scholarship. Together with Peruvian multimedia artist José Cruzado, I have prepared for you a virtual journey to the north-central highlands of Peru in the region of Ancash. José and I have worked together in archaeoacoustical research at the UNESCO World Heritage Center and Peruvian National Monument, Chavín de Huántar, an archaeological site that dates to the 2nd century before Common Era. Chavín, the center. This extensive ceremonial complex was an exercise in world building, a place where a powerful elite controlled access to ritual and cosmological knowledge. Massive buildings adorned with lithic art, including anthrozoomorphic tenant heads, the famed Chavín cabezas clavas, and depictions of entheogenic plants such as the San Pedro cactus attest to its otherworldliness. Since co-founding the Chavín de Huántar Archaeological Acoustics Project in 2007 at Stanford University's Center for Computer Research in Music and Acoustics, known as CARMA, I have conducted near-yearly fieldwork at Chavín, developing new archaeoacoustical methodologies and producing ground truth data regarding the sonic communication substrate of the site. Researchers from across fields have contributed to this project, which was initiated through a conversation between computer music composer and spatial audio pioneer John Chowning and archaeologist John Rick, who has led the site's research and conservation program since the mid-1990s with several Peruvian co-directors. 2,000 years prior to the Inca Empire, Chavín is less well-known, but of equal sociocultural significance. With neither textual information nor clarity regarding cultural continuity between Chavín and the post-colonial Inca period, archaeologists work to interpret Chavín's past from its material remains. Please join me now on a virtual journey through the sounds and spaces of Chavín de Huántar. Mama Kucha, Mar, Si. Why are seashells excavated in highland Andean archaeological sites? Andean archaeology stretches over 11,000 years of human life, from the arid marine costa to the glacial highland sierra throughout the Amazonian selva. Ecologies of places situate human-environmental relations. Andean peaks are known as spiritual ancestral beings. Apus in Quechua, an indigenous language spoken across the Andes, including the Ancash region of Peru, where a monumental gathering center was constructed nearly 3,000 years ago. Chavín de Huántar, Peru, 3,180 meters above sea level. View from the east during the dry season, April through September. During the rainy season, October through March. Mayuyacu, Agua del Rio, river water. Sierra river water flows east to the coast and west to the Amazonian headwaters. Chavín de Huántar marks the convergence of two rivers. Such joinings of oppositions, tingui, have cosmological significance in the Andes. Kilometers of slate-lined canals underlie the Chavín monument. What quiero mostrar ahorita es cómo suena, más o menos desde mi posición, y primero con el subwoofer. We simulated the sound of water through Chavín's canals using audio recordings of its flanking rivers. Y ese es el subwoofer en full volumen por mi grabación. Y aumentando con el otro parlante, and recorded testimonials from the fieldworkers we inadvertently surprised. Locals and Peruvians especially associated the sound with landslides, huaicos, earthquakes, temblores, and floods, aluviones. Coursing under and through the monumental site, controlled water and its sounds would have demonstrated Chavín leaders' power. Chuuru, concha, conch, pututu. The shell pututus are the only sound-producing instrument both excavated at Chavín and depicted in stone and ceramic iconography. Our research on the Chavín pututus is both functional and relational with the assembled archaeological evidence and site environmental setting. Acoustical and performance studies of the Chavín pututus document what frequency ranges and sonic textures the instruments can produce, as well as their sound levels.
Otro más suave, suavecito, ¿no?
In 2019, we conducted an acoustical and comparative performance study of the solo pututu excavated in 2018, likely a special instrument due to its particular isolated interment. Peruvian collaborators included Riman Chino Ramirez and Obert Silva, Chavinos who work for the Archaeological Research Program and participate in theatrical recreations, including performances during rare night events at the monument.
Mi nombre es Obert Silva. En este tema de los que es el sonido del pututo, yo vengo, grabando o participando en el tema del tocado, como 4 años, 4 o 5 años, porque siempre me está en tema de ceremonia, en escenificaciones, en lo que se hace en putut, en la Plaza Cuadrada de noche. Y la experiencia de las vibraciones, más que nada, como estábamos hablando, que cuando el viento está en una sola dirección se mezcla el sonido entre los tres pututos y al final se hace un sonido uniforme.
Están tocando el mismo tono.
Al mismo tono, y también se siente que es el mismo golpe que se hace con el sonido.
Interesante. Yeah.
Sí.
Observations such as Obert's about particular acoustical interactions between and among pututus and groups support interpretations that these instruments were masterfully wielded by the most powerful Chavín elites.
Quieren hacer el mismo tono, ¿no? Claro. It's like the shells that have a very similar sounding frequency or pitch. They're gravitating to have the same pitch. We're sort of lacking the frequency.
Two effects are striking. The vibratory acoustical wave interference effect, known in musical terms as beating, and the tone synchronizing effect, known in acoustics as resonance compliance. Both effects are felt throughout the body as much as heard, and to some, seem to be controlled by an external source or power. These are measurable and demonstrable acoustical phenomena, heard and felt, permeating spaces and bodies. Our study demonstrates a range of possibility for archaeological interpretations of the roles of these instruments in what is considered the ritual center of a powerful cult with transformed shamanistic leaders.
But when we're a little further away, I think we don't end up in the same pitch so much. I'm not sure. Let's try.
Of anthropological significance is the reflexivity and collaborative cross-comparison of performance approaches by a diverse group of researchers having a range of musical experiences, cultural and archaeological backgrounds, professions, and associations with the Andes and Chavín.
Aquí hay una frecuencia en que estoy resonando mucho y es más bajo, entonces no estamos haciendo juntos. So there's a lower frequency here There's a frequency that's resonant there, and so it seems like my instrument is lacking with that, and his is lacking with a different frequency.
The Chavín National Museum hosts a research center as well as exhibits of Chavín artifacts, including the Chavín Patutus. Local artist Saulo Gambini visited the museum to carve replicas we used in fieldwork. Rumi, Roca, rock. Near this town of Chavín lies a great edifice made of well-carved stones. Of notable grandeur, it was a waka and the shrine of the most famous of the pagans, as Rome or Jerusalem is to us, to which the native people came to make their offerings and sacrifices, because the devil in this place gave them many oracles, and thus they came from all over the kingdom. Beneath the ground are great halls and rooms, so great that there are certain stories that they extend beneath the river and pass near the waka or ancient shrine. Antonio Vasquez de Espinosa, 1616. Deep within the Lanson Gallery looms the 4.5-meter high granite monolith known by its colonial Spanish descriptor for its lance-like form. Samai, respiration, breath. In our 2019 study of the most recently excavated Chavín Patutu, we documented our experiences of performing this special instrument as a group of 5 performers with different backgrounds. Our video testimonials provide cross-comparative details about the activation of this 3,000-year-old ritual instrument.
¿No? Es como no tengo control de mi respiración. Es como te jala tu aire. ¿Han sentido esto? Que lo más que puede poner quiere sacar más.
Acoustical resonances and beating effects among replica patutus can be heard in Chavín's Doble Mensula Gallery during the 2018 Archaeoacoustics Field School, in which we developed a method for collaborative distributed sound sensing. In both on-site experiments with replica patutus and in the ethno-archaeomusicological studies of the site-excavated Chavín patutus, we documented and discussed our experiences of performing these instruments. We produced functional knowledge of patutu's interactions with site settings and in group performance. In 2012, the Swiss jazz trombonist Michael Fleury visited Chavín to play replica patutus in the site and record material for a Chavín exhibition and concerts in Zurich at the Museum Riedberg. Fleury's perspective on honing musical practices offers important insights about the sonic nuance possible in patutu performance.
So, I'm Michael Fleury. He's interested in the subject of Chavín. I think for every aspect it's the same. How to imagine how it was for real, how was the gesture, the aesthetics, the style back 3,000 years ago. And musically, like, what kind of melodies did they hear? What kind of arrangements did they do? Because I think when they did like a theater inszenierung, then also the shells, they have to be rehearsed like on point and like arranged through. And I think the ideas must have been very clarified somehow. way I hear it, it's interesting as a tone, solistically, but for me, like the fascination is about playing it in groups.
Huayra, viento, wind. The sound of Strombus patutus is acoustically robust to wind shear. We measured echoes returning to Chavin's building tops from over a kilometer down the narrow Chavín Valley. Patutu echoes ricochet among building facades and surrounding landforms, creating a 360-degree swirling soundscape. In 2008, the Peruvian sound healer Tito La Rosa joined our first archaeoacoustical study of the Chavín patutus, in which Perry Cook performed the acoustical measurements. La Rosa created a research performance of several of the ancient patutus in a large exhibition space in the Museo Nacional Chavín. He began his performance with breath into each instrument, bowing to each of the cardinal directions and perhaps to the surrounding opus, a ritual common to Andean earth-honoring ceremonies. Tamia, lluvia, rain. Highland ecologies ground my interpretation of the Strombus patutus and Chavín ritual. A living conch is a water being, therefore a Chavín transformed human-blown patutu instrument is a reanimated wind producer. A Chavín patutu was a conduit through which human-generated air could join the highland air. the superhuman performers of Chavín Patutus, depicted as anthropomorphic beings with wings, voiced a virtual flight by joining their breath with wind. A performed Patutu enlivened Chavín cosmology, ocean water, the shell's origin, with the Andean winds that bring rain earthward to enter the ground and flow through earthen rivers and Chavín canals, and outward to the coast and the rainforest. A superhuman performer of a Chavín Patutu could propel human agency to direct or mediate the hydrological cycle. Chavín required water to work. Winds bring much needed rain when earth is dry, sustaining life far beyond the highlands.
Wow, that was amazing. Maybe, Laura, should we go on right to the cooking part and then do questions afterwards, or do you think we have time for some questions now?
I think we can take some questions now.
Okay, I'm open to that, and Miriam and Pepe are here.
People want to think about it, we could move on to the cooking and then come back and have question and answer with all of the panelists, the musician, Mario, Miriam, and Pepe, and
I had a question. I had a question.
Go ahead, Larry.
How do we know that that was the major music or sounds that they played? Do we know if they accompanied this with singing, for example, or with drums or flutes?
That's a great question. We don't. What we know is that in the stone carvings, the only sound producing instruments that seem to be depicted are these patutus, and they've been site excavated. Of course, to find drums would be very difficult in terms of the wear and deposition processes that would be happening. So we don't have any evidence for drums, but I think you're right that we should assume that people use their voice and use drums, idiophones, self-sounding percussion instruments, because it's common across time and cultures. However, that said, the patutus were obviously very special to Chavín. And so what you saw was a demonstration of testing them in many different ways to kind of start to understand a range of possibility, but not at all excluding your great point about the potential for using other sources of instruments and, of course, the human voice. It seems likely in the ritual context that the patutu was more than just a sound producer. It was this multimodal, perhaps a being even, that was in use in ritual in particular ways. So there's so much structure and encoding in Chavín. So it seems likely that the ways that such objects were used in ritual was quite controlled or quite codified. And that's the kind of information that's almost impossible to extract from material archaeology. Certainly ethnological analogies can give us some possibilities. It was a long time ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron, there's a question from Mike Daly and Ellen Boozer, and it's how do flutes sound in the tunnels? Did you try other instruments?
Yes, in fact, with the gracious support of Tito La Rosa, in the first field work that the Archaeological Acoustics Project did in September 2008, Tito joined us and brought his collection of replicas and some ancient instruments. He even brought flutes from North America. So he had flutes made out of the stems of feathers of, I think, condor, and flutes made out of reeds, canes, wood as well, and also bone. And it's an interesting point to go back to Larry's question, even, is that there have been these carved bones excavated at Chavín, and they've been considered to be snuff tubes. However, in the past season, along with the Patutu study that we made, my Peruvian colleagues and I made performance tests of some of those carved bones, which in fact function as both whistles and also a natural horn, just like the Patutu with the larger bones. So camelid bones and probably human maybe foot bones. we're still trying to work with our colleagues to understand better what the bones might be. So there's this idea that if we have an inhalation tube, it could also be a sound producer. And I'm very much an advocate of this idea of multiple simultaneous functionality of archaeological objects, because when we say that something is only one thing, it's missing the kind of reality that oftentimes things are used for multiple functions, even in a codified ritual context. So flutes sound great in the galleries in the sense that the high frequencies get reflected back and forth off the hard stone surfaces. And so there's a lot of emphasis of those kind of sibilant, high frequency, whispering, breathing sounds, even though when you heard some of those tests, the acoustical space doesn't seem reverberant, right? In the galleries, it seems quite acoustically dead in certain ways. There are low frequencies that get prolonged for a long, long time because of the long corridors. But then the narrow walls make the high frequencies very emphasized. So things that have low frequencies like drums, and things that have high frequencies like quena, the flutes that are prominent in the Andes, the bombo and quena, the drum and the flutes that get played together, like some of the music that you heard from the local band. Those kinds of sounds would be especially emphasized in that architecture. So, and even in the plaza, the large plazas outside, high frequencies from whistles, especially ocarinas, in fact, get reinforced a lot and ricochet back and forth. So the flute sounds are important seemingly to Chavín architecture, and there's no reason to think that they wouldn't have been played in some context there.
Miriam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a dim recollection that there were actual conduits between the interior spaces and the public outdoor spaces at Chavín. Is that true?
There are. In fact, Chavín is interlaced with these horizontal ducts that are between 20 and 40 centimeters sort of square. And they, in some places, go for 120 meters. Now, low frequency sounds can actually be prolonged and carried through that distance, but high frequency sounds will get basically damped out and absorbed in that long space of the duct, and they won't pass through. So some of the ducts are especially good mechanical filters for patutus. So the sounding tones of these patutus that you heard a lot of pass very well through the ducts, and most other sounds don't. Even human voice that has some of the same tones, the same frequencies as patutus, depends on a lot of high frequencies for articulation, so you can understand and make make speech intelligible, for example. So human voice doesn't pass very well, but patutu sound does. So patutus are sort of an optimal instrument for getting between the outside and the inside space at Chavín, even though physically the outside and the inside are very, very separate and access controlled, the deep interior spaces would be hard to get to, and they're presumed to be kind of elite spaces, whereas the exterior spaces can obviously accommodate many more people and crowd gatherings, but the sounds from inside, from Patutus at least, could travel outside. So that's an exciting kind of area to explore about sonic communication.
Mhm. A couple of more questions have come in. Lynn Withy asks, where in the site were the Patutus found? Were they excavated? Did the locations give any clues as to who performed on them and in what situations or settings?
Well, that's a great question too. There is a ceremonial locus that we've identified for the Patutus where they were excavated alongside the circular plaza. There's one circular countersunk plaza, and lining this 21-meter in diameter plaza are these stone plaques of jaguars. They're called Chavín jaguars. Of course, they're these kind of mythical composite beings that are sort of feline and sort of crocodilian. They're fascinating. But above them are the images that you saw a lot of these Patutu players, and also what they call the shaman with the San Pedro cactus and some other figures. So Patutu players are depicted in the walls of this plaza. They're actually fossilized gastropod sea snails in the floor, set into this black and white tiled floor in specific places. And then the two galleries where the 20 Patutus in 2001 and then the one Patutu in 2018 were excavated are right next door, kind of in the closet next to the, I mean, maybe not, right? Maybe in a very special place, because it's kind of a mirror image gallery where the Patutus were excavated to what we call the Ofrendas gallery on the other side, which was excavated in the 1960s by Peruvian archaeologist Luis Lumbreras. And it was a cache of just enormous, quite intact, beautiful, fine decorated ceramics with sculptural, like the ceramic that you saw with the Patutus on it. So the Ofrendas gallery being the sort of mirror opposite of the places where the Patutus were excavated seems important, because Chavín does a lot of these kind of mirror dual pairings, following the Andean cosmological pent for this kind of joining of oppositions.
Ken Stillwell beat me to the punch here with a question about hallucinogens. He said, can you describe a ritual starting with San Pedro cactus, trumpets, and the lanzón? Was there evidence of San Pedro use at Chavín?
So I think no one has done phytolith analysis to find, like actual plant material. What we go on are the depictions in Lilithic art. So in fact, that what they call the San Pedro shaman, who was holding the staff, it looks like, well, they found the mirror image and the piece that's the bottom of it, which is a great depiction of roots. I mean, what staff has roots and looks like a cactus, right? So the fact that many of the lithic the carvings depict a lot of plant-like shapes that have been interpreted by Torres, for example, as different psychoactive plants, gives us a lot of evidence, along with these depictions of humans and sort of transformed humans, perhaps, as one interpretation, or these anthropomorphic beings with grimaces that often happen when people are taking purgatory substances like a San Pedro broth that makes you just vomit and vomit and vomit, or have these kinds of pained visions. And all of these associations, of course, come from anthropological analogies.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody knows that San Pedro is essentially a mescaline cactus. And the first summer I did ethnobotanical work, actually with Dick Ford and others, Kent Flannery and Ramiro Matos. In the Highlands, I brought back a live specimen of San Pedro cactus, strictly for research purposes, of course. But I had it, I put it in the refrigerator, and then I took a nap because I'd had an overnight flight. And my mother woke me up and she said, Michael, I was making this salad for your dad, and I started to slice this, which looked like a cucumber, but I don't think this is right. Could you tell me what this is? And of course, I was outraged and said, Mom, you've damaged a botanical specimen that later got cooked up in my apartment with John Rick and others, but long story. We got a couple more questions and we probably should move on. Anne Choniard asks, did you find evidence that multiple patutus were played at once to sound a chord or in a sequence to play a melody? Again, I presume you'd have to just speculate about that, but did you try it out?
That's an interesting question too. What we can say is that the adult animals that were chosen seem to be probably from the same family, genus, species. The name keeps changing. So when we started our research, it was Strombus galeatus, but then the malacologists sort of have updated the nomenclature and the understanding of the relation. You can say I'm not a biologist. So it became Strombus lobatus galeatus. And more recently, I've seen that it is now Gigantus strombus. So anyway, this particular animal, the Eastern Pacific giant conch is the more common name, seems to have a range that produces a size of an interior that makes tones that are kind of within the range of a few musical notes in a Western system. So if you play them together, you get these interesting effects that we were describing and demonstrating. Like if the tones are a little bit off, then you get these wave interference patterns and it makes a vibrating sound when you play them together. And so that's the most commonly known and experimented with kind of chording techniques. I mean, they don't make chords in the sense of the way that we think about them in Western music. However, it seems like the acoustical effects that you get between them are so strong and so pronounced that it seems like a technique in playing them together would involve either maximizing or minimizing those effects. So here's where the performance study and doing acoustical work rather than thinking about them in terms of Western music, which gets done a lot for archaeology, independent of the cultural relevance. That's where the acoustical and performance work, I think, is more revelatory of what you can, of the range of possibility or the likelihood that they were performed in certain ways. Sorry, that wasn't a very good.
No, that's okay. It's a complicated question, and it was a fascinating answer. Thank you so much, Miriam and Pepe. I think maybe it's time to move from the spiritual to the culinary. So why don't we start the video about cooking la causa reina limeña.
Hello. Hi, my name is Susana Hamilton, one of the owners of Sabor Peruano. My sister Adriana Broly is the second owner of this restaurant. We are located here inside of the Vargas Center Mall. It's about 4 years old, and we are very happy to be here in Santa Fe. We are right now in the kitchen of Sabor Peruano, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how to make one of appetizers, which is the causa rellena. It's a cold appetizer, and we're going to start with the ingredients. We have the potato. You can use 2 potatoes. It depends how many people you're going to serve this appetizer. You can start for two people, or you can do 4 for 4 people. It depends how many people are going to eat this. We have also the onions. You can use a red onion. We have the Peruvian yellow pepper that's already blended, black olive, no seeds inside. We have 2 different types of oil that you can use, a regular vegetable oil or the virgin oil, salt, pepper, and the lemon is already the juice. We have the ketchup with mayonnaise mix and the mayonnaise for the decoration. Of course, we need the avocado and the pimiento. Okay, so we're gonna start this to boil the potato. Once we boil the potato, we smash the potato, and you see the color that we're gonna use that comes is with the Peruvian yellow pepper. And we use some salt, some of the oil in there, and we mix it, and of course the juice, the lemon juice. So then the chicken, that's another part, the very important part, is the chicken. Once we use the breast chicken, once we boil the chicken, we're gonna shred it. We're gonna shred it, and we're gonna use some of the red onion that we're gonna cut it in small pieces. So this is the onion, and you're gonna cut it in small pieces like this. See? So then we're gonna mix this with mayonnaise in a bowl. And that's how it's gonna turn your chicken. So then we're gonna use this ring. It's a metal ring, it's round. I would think it's about maybe 3 inches, something, 3 inches. So we're gonna use the plate, and we're gonna surface this with the potato. Like I said, this is a cold appetizer. It's well known in Peru, the causa rellena. Most of the people or tourists also love this one. We're gonna use our fingers to press and make it like a bread. See, that's how it's supposed to be, the first layer of the potato. So then we're gonna have the avocado. We use the avocado. We love the avocados. Let me see. So here we're gonna peel the avocado, and we are gonna cut it maybe 2, or I would say 3. And we're gonna decorate this causa all around to cover that. Let me see. Okay, there you go. So this is how it's gonna look with the avocado. That's the second layer. Now we're gonna have another potato. This is a smashed potato. It's real good. By the way, we know we do have 3,800 different types of potatoes in Peru. We have all different shapes, colors, and sizes. That's what they call us the king of potatoes. So that's the second layer with the potato, okay? And we always keep pressing a little bit. Now it goes the chicken. The chicken, there we go. We're gonna try to spread that here. So we start this business. My grandma, Rita, she started this business many years ago in Peru. And then my sister, my older sister, Ana Maria, she opened one restaurant in St. Louis, Missouri. So, and with my sister Adriana, we always have a dream. We always said, let's open a Peruvian restaurant. You know, we always have that in the back of our mind. And when we moved from St. Louis, Missouri to here, to Santa Fe, then we decided this is the perfect place to open a Peruvian restaurant. So like you are seeing now, we are putting the last layer of the potatoes. and we keep pressing here. Now, how did we learn to cook? Oh my goodness. So, my grandma, of course, my mother, she loved to cook. We learned when we was kids, and when we decided to open the restaurant, we invited chef from Cordon Bleu from Peru. She came 3 months and she trained all of us, my sister, myself, and the other people who cooks here. That's how. Okay, so you see we keep pressing here and we put the fingers there so it will stay together. It comes real nice and smooth. Okay, you see? Now you can use chicken for the veggies, or you can use quinoa, and the same thing, the quinoa with the onions, you mix it, you can put a little bit of the tomato, cherry tomatoes, and mix that, and instead of the chicken, you can use that, you can use tuna as well. So, there it is. Now we're gonna decorate the causa with the menes around here. You can do different decorations. This is the way my sister does. I just go all around and have the decoration there. And we are gonna have the olive here. We're gonna start to make a happy face. Then we all need to be happy. Happy, and there's the eyes for the happy face. We're going to use the parsley here for the hair. And of course, we need to have the mouth there. There you go. Now, Adriana, would you please come and do the decoration with this? There's my sister, my younger sister. When I said to my sister, we are moving to Santa Fe, and she said, where? I said, yes, we're moving to Santa Fe. We're going to move our business, and we're going to make a dream come true. And there we are, 4 years, we're still here. We're so happy and so excited. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be at your house and show you a little bit of the Peruvian cuisine. We use the ingredients, all fresh ingredients, and we also like to thank you to the Laura Sullivan from the School of Advanced Research to give us the opportunity to show you what is Peruvian cuisine. If Laura Sullivan, please, if you may, we would like for you to have the chance of taste. Hi.
Hi, Susanna.
Hi, Laura.
Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Oh.
What a beautiful dish, and I'm sure our guests will enjoy making this at home. And I'm
Yes.
honored to be able to taste it today.
Yeah. There you go. Now, if you have any, sorry, I need to drink some water. If you need any question, you have any questions about this dish or any type of food, please give us a call. How is it, Laura?
Delicious.
Yeah, this is
Thank
one
you
of
so much.
one of our famous, well-known causa rellena. So
It could be
thank
wonderful
you.
around the holidays as well.
Yeah, yes, of
And we
course.
invite you to get your ingredients and join along and make the dish at home.
Oh, thank you, Laura, for reminding me. I almost forgot. We do carry all the ingredients here. The ingredient that we use, we have here the Peruvian yellow pepper. We have the other ingredients, huacatay, ají panca. We have rocoto, which is a very spicy one, very, very spicy chile. So, and of course, let's not forget, Peru is famous for this purple corn. The purple corn that we make the chicha morada. It's a cold drink. It's like tea, but it's purple. And it's all natural. So we invite you to come here to the restaurant Sabor Peruano in the Vargas Mall. Thank you so much.
Welcome again to Sabor Peruano and the gift shop. My sister Susana for her demonstration in the causa rellena.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
letting us be at your house. And we hope to see you here at the restaurant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susana and Adriana. Wow. I've got a couple of comments that have come in. Let's see, Helen and Dougbrook said, we ordered takeout tonight. It was delicious. And Julie Rivers says, so did we, and it was delicious. And Paul Ryer says, what a sweet lady. And Morton to everyone says, yummy. I've just ordered Amazon metal ring for stocking stuffers to make this recipe. So obviously this has had a big impression, made a big impression on everybody. Do you have any?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed this workshop and we are very happy to do this for all of you.
So Laura, what's our next step here?
Well, does anyone have any questions about the dish or the tradition behind causa rellena or anything? There is some history behind this dish.
Yes.
Maybe you could explain.
Oh.
Would you like to explain, Susana?
Sure. During 1820, there was the general named José Martín, who was trying to independent Peru from the Spanish. So they decided to work on that, how would say, to work on this cause. So the women in Peru decided to help to the soldiers, and they decided to make the special dish for during that time. So that's when they decided to make the causa rellena, and they called for the cause, for la causa. And the reason they also make this dish is because they want to make the funds to help the soldiers to buy the food, the medicine, and the clothes. That's what it is. It was a long time ago. That's where the name comes, the causa rellena.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Susana. Pepe, did you want to say anything about that growing up in Peru? Did you enjoy that dish when you were growing up?
Yeah, I remember my food. That's so delicious. Oh. I want to say I like your guinea pig in the background and the video.
Yeah.
If you don't know, we eat guinea pigs in Peru. This is the special food in Peru. But here is here's my dog. It's a pet. In Peru, we eat this
delicious fried cuy.
Fried cuy. We made this plate with potatoes, hot yellow pepper, and that's it.
Guinea pig.
And guinea pig, fried guinea pig.
I actually, there was a Peruvian professor at the University of Michigan who would give a Peruvian party every year. And this third or fourth time he went to the pet shop to get guinea pigs. The man said, you must really love guinea pigs, Dr. Frasancho. And he said, oh yeah, we'll be eating them tonight. And the checkout person was outraged. You know, this is not a grocery store. This is a pet shop. A couple of questions have come in. Somebody asked, David Bulfer asks, is mayonnaise typical Peruvian, or is that I presume that's a European introduction?
Yeah, we just use the mayonnaise for the decoration, mainly, yeah. But the potatoes, we are, like I mentioned before, we have 3,800 type of potatoes. So
Amy Schiffer asks, how many of the 3,800 varieties of potatoes do you have in the restaurant?
Oh, wow. No, we use here, you know, it's so hard to bring the potato here, but we use the Yukon potato, which work very well with most of the dishes that we cook here.
Any other questions before we move on to the door prize? Well, we're getting to the end of this unusual event. I have to say this is an experiment for us, and so far the technology has held up, and we've seen some interesting food, which I hope we can sample before too long, and we've learned a lot about Peruvian prehistory. Why don't we close with a musical piece by Mario, and then if you want to stay on afterwards, I guess Lindsay, who's the Wizard of Oz here behind the scenes, will be dividing you up into 3 different chat rooms, and I think you're more or less randomly sorted. You're welcome to stay on and just have a free conversation for 15 or 20 minutes or so. But if I don't see you for that, thanks a lot for joining us. I wish everybody the best for the holidays. I wish, along with you, better times in 2021. I don't think very many of us will be sorry to see 2020 wind down, but we've got a lot to look forward to, and we hope that by next summer we'll be able to, or certainly by next fall, we'll be back to in-person events, and we'll see you close up and personal at that point. Mario? Mario's muted. There we go.